Fantastic. We have, again, our next panel is so fabulous. So I want you guys to get excited and get ready because I'm introducing Regina Hall, who is DC's finest. Regina most recently starred in the hit comedy Girls Trip, which was produced by my good friend, Mr. Will Packer. She is born and raised in Washington, D.C. Give it up. Give her some more. She made her television debut in 1992, where she appeared on the ABC soap opera Loving. Work proved to be sporadic. With several years passing before she landed another project, but this time on New York Undercover. For us that know, New York Undercover was...
Now he really aging me, y'all.
That was it.
There's somebody here going, what's New York Undercover? But no, go ahead.
After playing Candy, a stripper on the feature of The Best Man, right, roles began to come her way very frequently.
Oh, my goodness.
She starred in Love and Basketball. Who remembers Love and Basketball? And Scary Movie, after which followed the Scary Movie sequels, the 3-episode arc of a junior associate on Robert Downey's character on Ally McBeal in the spring of 2001.
They went back on this, y'all.
Led to her becoming a season regular in 2001 and 2002. When that gig ended, Regina moved back into feature films with roles on Malibu's Most Wanted, opposite Jamie Kennedy, King's Ransom with my good friend Anthony Anderson, as well as some of the films. I know you're going to remember these: Death at a Funeral, Think Like a Man 2, Barbershop, The Next Cut, When the Borough Breaks, great film, and then, as I mentioned earlier, Girls Trip.
Thank you so much.
And here's something that I found.
Since he done been like, she like 79 out here.
Yeah. Here's something that really, really jumped out at me. She also earned her master's degree in journalism in 1997 from New York University. All right. Good to have you, Regina. Next, I want to bring up the gentleman, Russell Hornsby. I've had the pleasure, come on. I've had the pleasure of working with Russell, but he has amassed a catalog of film and television. Russell has worked on some of the best qualified and best highly rated content on television and film, from Fences. Who remember Fences? He's also coming forward here in Creed 2. I know you're getting ready for that. I had the pleasure of working with Russell on the smash hit, NBC smash hit, Grimm. Many of you were introduced to him, or you really kept track of him on ABC's Lincoln Heights, as well as HBO's In Treatment. So he's born and raised in Oakland, California. Hornsby was in the theater program at Boston University. He studied for a summer at the British Academy of Dramatic Arts program in Oxford. Oxford University. Hornsby currently resides in Los Angeles with his family. All right.
My black wife.
That's right.
Holla
That's
one
right.
time.
Sister.
Next up, I have the pleasure to introduce a rattler. And I'm saying that strong because there's some other rattlers in the room. No hate, we love you, Howard, but rattlers are everywhere. This is Common. Come on now. Hip-hop's finest. Common, who's now, of course, he's an actor, he's an activist, a film producer, a poet from Chicago, Chi-Town. Where you at? Common debuted in 1992. That's what it says on the paper, but for us that remember, Common was down at FAMU on the set, giving it to him. Exactly. So we know a different level Common. But in 1994, Common dropped something that many of us consider just ultimate classic, was I Used to Love Her. Right? Come on now. 2011, Common launched Think Common Entertainment, his own record label imprint. And in the past, he has released music under various other labels, well as Relativity, Geffen, Good Music, among others. His major label debut was Like Water for Chocolate. Come on, who got that?
Thank you.
Come on now.
Thank you, y'all.
It received widespread critical acclaim as well as commercial success. His first Grammy Award was in 2003, winning Best R&B Song for Love of My Life with Erykah Badu. I could hear it playing in my ear.
Sing it.
You know, you're not gonna have that. You ain't gonna have that. We ain't gonna do that. Also, he had in 2005 B, which was nominated for Best Hip Hop, Best Rap Album at the 2006 Grammy Awards. Common was awarded his second Grammy for Best Rap Performance and Duo or Group for Southside, featuring Kanye West from his July 2007 album Finding Forever. Again, the great thing is his ability to transition and move between different spaces. Common won in 2015 the Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song, and in 2015 the Academy Award for Best Original Song for his song Glory from the 2014 film Selma. Let's give it up for Common.
Thank you, y'all. Thanks, y'all.
We have another superstar in her own right. I've known her for a long time. I'm from ATL. I want you guys to give it up for Winsome Sinclair. Winsome Sinclair is a very well-known, acclaimed casting director, has collaborated with Steven Spielberg, Spike Lee, Oliver Stone, John Singleton, Lee Daniels. Us that are in the industry, we know she has brought some of the best. And when I tell you these films, whoo, Amistad, Malcolm X, Waiting to Excel, The Best Man, Inside Man, Too Fast, Too Furious, Black Snake's Moan, Cadillac Records, Sparkle, and Precious. Many other films have been accredited to Winsome Sinclair. She's also stepped into the documentary space. I know, of course, we've been worked and closely linked together with Maynard, which is the film of course, our famous Atlanta mayor. In 2015, she completed Barbershop with Malcolm Lee. 2016, she completed the principal casting for films such as All Eyes on Me for the Tupac Shakur biopic. Again, give it up for Winsome Sinclair. So, you guys just saw a clip of their upcoming film, The Hate U Give. I can tell you, I've seen the film. It is one of the most powerful, layered films I've seen. I've worked on 30 #1 films, 5 Academy films, 150 other films that have grossed $3 billion. When I see a film, I know when a film is going to hit. Yeah. Trust me. The Hate U Give is going to explode. Right? And you guys have the opportunity today to be with their principal cast. Now, we're going to have a dynamic day with them. This particular conversation is going to be on media diversity, but we're also going to have a special forum between 3 and 5 o'clock, where we're also going to talk about specifically The Hate U Give. We're going to deep dive into that. And then there's more. There's going to be a reception. There's other things going on, even a screening. Some of you have tickets to the screening. Some of you don't. Sorry. Catch it when it comes to the box office. That's how it works. This particular conversation is going to be around media diversity, and where I want to start, I ended talking about Warner Media and what they announced as far as some protocols regarding diversity in movies and television. The first person to really announce something very specific was Michael B. Jordan and his production company, which says, hey, I'm going to go out and put in an inclusion rider, and I'm going to make it known that projects that I'm associated with, there's going to need to be some parameters around my participation or my company's participation, which I think was phenomenal. As you know, he just started production on a film in Atlanta, and so I want to talk to our cast members, and anyone can answer this, around these diversity as well as inclusion riders. It's been an interesting topic for a while, and let me explain again for those that don't understand. As principal talent, you also have a certain level of positioning and power. At the same time, it's a delicate balance because there's always levels of competition. But when you state a platform that you sit on and engagement, it also helps establish kind of how people will work with you. Remember, sometimes you have to treat people how you want to be treated. Am I right? And so Michael B. Jordan made a quick stance. After his success with Creed, after Black Panther, he basically said, I'm going to teach you how to treat me. with this particular protocol. So as we look at that from a creative and from an actress's perspective, how does that translate, and how do you guys see not only what Michael B. Jordan has done, but just this progression that we're having with the conversation of inclusion and diversity in Hollywood?
Well, first of all, I definitely commend Michael for doing that, and that's leadership right there. That takes the courage that we need to change the landscape that we know has existed in not only in film and entertainment and media, but just in America, like, you know, where we don't have black men and women represented in the way that they should be, in the way that we should be. I do have to say I've been around sets where, like per se, Selma, where that wasn't in the writer, but it was in the action. Like, when I walked on the set of Selma, the head of costume was black, like the head of makeup was black, and it was women like running things, and I have to acknowledge, I heard Spike Lee has done a lot of the same type of things with his films. So the fact that Michael B. is like taking it and advancing it by saying, look, this is in the contract that it has to be. I mean, those are the steps that we take, not only as actors, but he's a producer, that we take to really change the landscape, and then it becomes part of the norm, and we won't have to have that conversation anymore.
Exactly. For those that don't quite even get it even further, let me explain. I'm gonna give you a correlation. So in the NFL, 90% of the people on the field are what? Up until some years ago, there were very few even on the coaching staff. But the NFL had to put in a contract like this that said we have to interview, NFL teams have to interview diverse candidates for coaching. And that helped change the landscape for coaching. You understand? The next layer is with ownership. So the key here sometimes is making sure, although sometimes people get afraid saying, well, it doesn't have to be contractual, can it just be a conversation, something that we agree upon? Sometimes you got to put it on paper for people to really make some decisions and make some things happen. I know that in our space, and from a casting perspective, when we get called into jobs, or when I'm working from a marketing with a casting or even in development, sometimes we have to fight.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes our actors know, sometimes the directors know, sometimes they don't. But when I go in to help greenlight a film, I have to fight to say, hey, why can't this person be diverse? What's wrong with this character? Or why can't we look at some diverse directors? Can you talk from your vantage point from the casting side of how diversity sits in those conversations on the executive level?
Absolutely. Well, here's what I have to say. Everybody's journey is different, but my specific journey actually coming out of FAMU was unique in that my first boss was Spike Lee. And Spike, it wasn't contractual, but he made it known to the unions in New York and everybody working that all his department heads need to look like him. And if they didn't exist, you needed to train the next generation. So on his next film, we'd be his department heads. And he stuck to that for 20 plus years. So I came out of that camp, and I didn't understand where it came from until I worked on the Maynard documentary. And I realized that Spike went to Morehouse when Maynard was in office. And when Maynard said, on all the banks in Atlanta, somebody of color has to be on your executive board, they told him no. And he was like, okay, well, I'll take my money to the California banks. You know what I'm saying? So I come from a history of people who, not contractually, but it was in our blood. So usually when I go into the casting office for that fight, my resume comes with me so they know who they're fighting with, and they know what I'm going to fight for and what I've stood for the past 30 years, because I was trained by that lineage.
Fantastic. There's another area that has to be addressed, which is with gender equality in pay. And so, Regina, I know there is a constant. This fight is not dead. It is constant. It is ever growing, where women are saying, listen, we're on set just as long as the men. We're doing just as many lines. We're sometimes having to do more because we got to go through hair, makeup, wardrobe. We got all kind of stuff we got to participate in. Why isn't our pay on an equal level? As that conversation continues to grow, what do you think becomes some of the critical points of intersections? Like, how do we make it more consistent, specifically in the area for our African American women. We're seeing more and more of you on screen. My concern is, how do we make sure that they get paid at that right level as their male counterparts?
Well, I mean, this isn't obviously a new fight. I think how we do that is just, it's not just that we're on set for as many hours. I mean, our movies are making money. Our television shows are making money. I mean, Girls Trip had 4 females, and, black women came out, some men too, and white women, and they supported. Women support women. Women of all races support women, and so when we're able to contribute financially, and we're able to participate, and then we're able to gross financially, then you don't really have an argument to say we don't deserve it. A lot of times people try to say that women don't make as much because they're not, whatever excuse it is. I mean, what we're able to see now is that they're excuses, and that you have to start quantifying our value. It's not just a matter of words. And I think too, as women, more females are producing, and creating projects and vehicles, and just working with someone, for example, like a Queen Latifah and a Jada, and going in and saying, we will walk the walk and we will be unified. Tiffany, where it won't happen unless this happens. And so I think as we start, being dainty and making our demands, and we continue to do that. It won't be overnight, but it's a walk, and not just in this field, obviously, but in everything. Women have, we contribute not so much, but as much. And maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
If I may,
yeah, absolutely.
I also think it's about where we place value.
Yeah.
And placing value on being treated equitably, being treated fairly. I think in light of the fact that we see more and more of us, people who look like us behind the scenes, and people are in those rooms, people are hearing those conversations. I think communication is important. I think oftentimes what we've done in the past is that we've separated ourselves, and we've kept a lot of information to ourselves, close to our vest. I think it's important that we help each and everybody understand what's being spoken in these rooms, how people are being perceived, and also some information about, money, what you're worth, helping people understand, so that people, men and women of color, can make informed decisions. Mm-hmm. So then therefore what you're worth, and so you can make an informed decision to say, what, I think I'm worth more, and then in light of that, I'm gonna say no.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna take a stand.
No is powerful.
And no is very powerful, so I'm gonna say no, and you have to start with that willingness to say no, to step back, and then at the same time know that you are supported. Mm-hmm. In that we can't do this by ourselves. Right. We can't take this walk alone. We have to have people who are walking in step with us. Again, as I said, as supporters, but also as communicators, as informers, to let us know what is happening behind the scenes.
So
Terrence, can I say it? It's really important what Russell just said, and he kind of crystallized it, but I got to reinforce it that, like, when you talk about equity for women, it's really important. First of all, women are leading that movement, but it's important as men that we speak up and, like, really stand up, like, go the extra mile to be like, yo, this ain't acceptable no more. We got, like, the same way, the black struggle, our fight can't just be fought by us. It got to be other people and other nationalities stepping out and saying, yo, this is wrong. Because sometimes people ain't gonna hear from, we tell people about our struggle all the time, but sometimes it take one of them to say it to them for them to understand it, and I'm saying them is like white folks or whatever to understand it. Sometimes it takes like a man to step out also and say, yo, this is bogus, man. We can't have it like this. So I think, to add on to that, we give our respect and say that the women are leading that movement, but we as men got to step out and be
I'm going to call
courageous.
these two in my next negotiation. I'm going to be like, where Common and Russell at?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting point because, and Common, I love the way what you added to it. You guys got to understand, so when you hear terms and they say, well, somebody was a diva, or this guy was difficult to work with. So the great late Aretha Franklin. Some people you say, well, she is hard, like this, but Aretha knew her value. And what she did is she didn't discount her value because you didn't understand it. What she did is she made sure, I'm gonna tell you what it is, I'm gonna make sure you understand it, and if you can't follow it, I'm gonna walk out the door. And so it's interesting because we know what the counterparts get and how they get treated when they come on set or when they get hired or when they get, with the level of participation, the places they go. And so when I go in and I'm saying, no, we need our black actors at Comic-Con and at this place, and we need to take them here. And we're not sure. I don't know, will they translate? I don't want to hear that mess. No, should they be on this plane? Should they be riding this? Should they be? Yes. And from an audience perspective, we have to support their efforts. But I love the fact that you said men have to also stand up too. So we have to sometimes be vocal and say, hey, I worked recently with Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah, she's a queen. But you got to treat her the right way. Treat her as a queen. When she walks in a room, things need to be in order. And we have to make sure we hold people accountable, including our studios and our networks, so that they can do right by our talent, so they can continue to work and put out their best work. Correct?
Correct.
I want to transition to mentorship. Russell, I love, on Lincoln Heights and on your programs and television shows, even in the movie The Hate You Give, you are the leading father figure, a head man position, and there's usually young people around you that you touch and mold.
Yes.
And so, not just on screen, but I want to look at it from a diversity perspective in our industry. How do we continuously translate to our young people and mold them so that when they transition into working consistently, that they come in with the right mindset?
I was, I came up old school, and so in that, I was around, doing plays, being in the theater. I was around men who were 20 years my senior. And there was a lot of be seen and not heard. There was a lot of take the lesson, through action, through what you see, in front of you. But also these men weren't afraid to tell me when I was out of line or was out of pocket or whatnot. And so what I'm looking to do now as I get older and I'm realizing I have transitioned into that place of being a mentor, first of all, I think you have to own that. Do you know what I mean? And you have to own that I am a mentor now, and I can't walk around as an actor looking for validation. It's my job now to help validate and lift others up, lift young people up, give them thoughts, give them a fresh words of encouragement. That is important. But also at the same time, tell them what they don't want to hear. And I think there's aspects of mentorship that's lacking. We have to have a willingness, but I also think that young people, it's not just about seeking a mentor out. It's about being, doing the work along the way, doing your job, so that when that person comes into your life, you're ready. There is no magic bullet. There's no magic pill that I can do or say to somebody to get you there. You have to be ready to take the journey. And I think that's important. I think a lot of what I see is a lot of young people who want to get into this business, oftentimes they get in for the wrong reasons. Right. They look at this as celebrity, right, and not as a craft, perspective.
And business.
Yeah. And so everything just takes time. You have to take the requisite steps to get there, and you have to just build with somebody and take on a relationship, and build slowly.
And I think it's important too. I'm sorry, sis, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I wanted to jump on the back of what Russell was saying is, despite whatever we've all done, but I know that, I'm blessed to have the resume that I have, but one of the things that I'm proudest of is of 29 years of being in this industry, all 28 of them, I've had interns and I've mentored people and I poured into the next generation because I realized that I am the shoulders that they stand on, and I needed to make room because somebody made room for me. And we also have to remember that we're a village and we have to take care of each other. So if you're on set and you see a person of color acting out in a way that they shouldn't, check them in a way that they will understand. I remember when we were doing the film Juice, and the producers didn't know how to control Tupac, and it was the women in the production office that took him aside and said, listen, this is what your opportunity you have. Don't blow this for all of us. And they gave him perspective, and there was a shift on the set the next day because he understood, because people who looked like him had a conversation that he understood.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say I believe is really helpful to our youth is if we expose them to things that you do, like casting directors, to lighting directors, to directors of photography, to executives. If our communities got exposed, one of my guys just hit me on a text like, man, there's some really good young black actors. We need an acting school here in Chicago that's like for young. You know, like how many cats you can get that would be off the streets if they had a chance to just like express themselves through acting. So I think if we expose like our young people to what this world, they don't know, like we were saying about celebrity, they get excited, they want to see the celebrity in it and be like in front of the camera, but a lot of people get introduced to the photography and they like, oh, I love this. I just had that with some of my kids in my camp. They were doing incredible things with pictures and photography. And it's like, we got to expose them to that to know what it is. The only reason I think any of us are up here is because we had some access to some type of exposure, you know?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm a big proponent for the executive space. I'm one of the few that cut across the studios, and I